In the final 90 seconds of his life, cargo pilot Thomas Preziose made small human decisions that turned a routine flight into one of the strangest cases we've ever covered. He was 54, alone in the cockpit, flying low over black water outside Mobile, Alabama. 2 minutes later, he'd be dead. He wasn't a novice building hours on the weekend. This was a seasoned professional, flying a route his own company said he knew, in an aircraft he'd logged serious time in. That's what makes what happened next so hard to explain. Here's what kept this story alive for years. When crews pulled the wreckage from the swamp, they found something scored into the metal, deep red marks, scarring, the kind of damage you'd expect from a mid-air strike, except radar showed nothing out there that could have hit him. That detail is why some people still call this Alabama's own UFO case. For a while, even the investigator running it didn't rule that out. The real answer came later, and it's harder to sit with than a UFO because it means everything that killed him happened live on an open radio frequency, while a controller on the ground listened to him try and fail to save himself. No storm, no mechanical failure, no collision, just a pilot, alone in the clouds, making one avoidable mistake after another until there was nothing left to correct. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those mistakes were, in order, and why a UFO investigation ended up uncovering something far more human and far more preventable. Thomas Preziose didn't fall into aviation by accident. By the time he climbed into that cockpit on an October night in 2002, he'd already spent years building a career around flying, not the kind of resume you expect on a routine overnight cargo run. He held an airline transport pilot certificate, the highest rating a civilian pilot can earn. He'd taught other pilots to fly the Cessna 208 at Pan Am's Flight Academy. He'd flown for the NYPD over some of the most complicated airspace in the country. This was not a beginner behind the controls. Over 4,500 hours in the air, 800 of those in the Cessna 208 Caravan, the same aircraft he was flying that night. His employer considered him experienced enough that this was a route he already knew well. Experience is supposed to keep a pilot alive. It's the buffer, the safety margin, the reason airlines pay more for pilots with more hours in their logbook. And almost none of those 4,500 hours were going to help him that night. What was waiting for him in the clouds over Alabama wasn't mechanical failure, and it wasn't a rookie mistake. It was something training alone can't fully prepare you for. It would take less than 2 minutes to prove it. By the time N-76U taxied out that evening, nothing about this flight looked unusual. October 23, 2002, 7:40 at night. Preziose lifted off from Brookley Field, flying under the call sign Night Ship 282. His aircraft, a Cessna 208B Cargo Master, a single-engine turboprop built to haul freight, not passengers. In the back, no seats, just 420 pounds of packages contracted through DHL. The aircraft belonged to Atlantic Aero, leased out for runs exactly like this one. His destination was Montgomery, a short hop east across the state, the kind of run a pilot with his logbook could fly on autopilot. This was the job: small planes, small packages, long nights, empty skies. Thousands of pilots fly routes exactly like this one every night across America. Almost none of them end up on the news. For the moment, everything was still calm, engine running clean, cargo secured, and somewhere out over the Gulf Coast darkness, the weather was already becoming his first real problem. At 7:40 that night, N-76U lifted off from Brookley Field, and flew into a sky that looked almost inviting from the ground. 94% of the moon was lit that night, but investigators later calculated it was sitting just 1/10 of a degree above the horizon, essentially edge-on to him. Even on a clear night, that gives a pilot almost nothing to fly by, and this wasn't a clear night. A deck of low clouds had rolled in over the Gulf Coast, thick enough to swallow that moonlight before it reached the cockpit. Preziose wasn't climbing into a bright Alabama sky. He was climbing into cloud, what pilots call instrument conditions. No horizon, no stars, no lights on the ground to orient by, just black in every direction, broken only by the glow of his own instrument panel. This kind of flying is legal. Thousands of instrument-rated pilots do it safely every night, but it demands one thing: trusting the gauges completely and ignoring what your own body tells you. Because inside a cloud, your inner ear can be confidently, dangerously wrong. Without a horizon to check against, the fluid in your ear can convince you you're flying straight and level when you're not, or turning when you're not. Pilots call it spatial disorientation, one of the quieter killers in aviation, because it doesn't feel like danger while it's happening. It feels like certainty. At 7:42, 2 minutes after takeoff, Preziose checked in with Mobile Approach Control, reporting his climb toward 2,000 feet. His voice, calm, routine. Nothing in the call hints at what was building in the clouds above him. That check-in is the last unremarkable moment on tape. At 7:44 and 25 seconds, roughly 2 minutes after his last radio call, Mobile Approach broke the silence in Preziose's cockpit. A heavy DC-10 was in his vicinity, the controller told him, level at 4,000 feet. Preziose keyed his mic and answered honestly. He was looking for it, but he was in cloud. Looking, I'm IMC, pilot shorthand for there's nothing outside my window right now. That put him in a strange position, flying between two cloud layers with just enough visibility to go looking for a light in the dark. Enough, in fact, that he'd find it seconds later. What he didn't know, the controller wasn't required to give him that traffic call at all. Years later, the controller said he only mentioned the DC-10 to explain a delayed climb clearance, not because it was a safety concern. Preziose had no way of knowing the search he was about to fixate on didn't need to happen. A minute later, at 7:45 and 54 seconds, the controller called again. More detail. The DC-10 was at his 1 o'clock, 2 miles out, still southbound, still at 4,000 feet. 7 seconds after that, Preziose answered, "Roger, I got him above me right now." He believed he had eyes on the traffic he'd just been warned about. Radar data, reconstructed after the fact, tells a different story. When investigators plotted both flight paths, they found the DC-10 was never actually a collision threat. At the last radar return, the two aircraft were separated by roughly 1.1 nautical miles horizontally and 1,600 feet vertically. Safe distances by any standard. No near miss, no close call. Nothing dangerous ever came close to touching Night Ship 282. The traffic wasn't the danger in this story. Looking for it was. 16 seconds after Roger, I got him above me right now. At 7:45 and 57 seconds, Preziose keyed his mic one last time. No call sign, no heading, nothing resembling standard radio procedure. 4 words repeated, breaking down in real time.
I needed to deviate. I needed to deviate. I needed to deviate. I needed...
The transmission stopped, not mid-sentence the way it happens in movies, mid-word. The recording just ends, I needed, hanging in the static. No reply from the ground, no further transmission from the airplane. Just the kind of silence any controller dreads on a frequency that used to have a voice attached to it. Sit with those 4 repeated words. Even the NTSB would later conclude Their exact meaning could never be fully determined. But it isn't a distress call. It isn't Mayday. It sounds like a man narrating his own realization, almost a full second too late, that something he still needed to do, he hadn't done yet. This was the last human voice anyone would ever hear from Night Ship 282, spoken by a pilot with over 4,000 hours in his logbook, repeating himself because whatever was happening to that airplane was already moving faster than he could put it into words. While Preziose fought through those final words, his own transmission was recording something he never said out loud. When audio analysts went back to that clip, isolating sound underneath his voice, they found two things: background noise increasing, a rushing intensity that grows louder toward the end, and cutting through it, faint but unmistakable, the caravan's overspeed warning horn. That detail matters. An overspeed horn in a Cessna 208 has one job. It sounds when the airplane exceeds the maximum speed its structure is rated for, usually because the nose has dropped and it's gaining speed faster than it should. Pilots don't hear that sound in normal level flight. They hear it when the airplane's attitude has already gone somewhere it shouldn't. Which means while Preziose was still speaking, while he was telling Mobile Approach he needed to deviate, his airplane had already begun accelerating in a way it was never designed to. Whatever emergency was unfolding didn't start after his last transmission ended. It was happening underneath his own voice, captured on tape while he was still trying to describe it. That overspeed horn wasn't just background noise for investigators, it was a data point. When safety board engineers fed Mobile Tracon's radar returns into a performance simulation, that data point took shape. By the moment Preziose keyed his mic for the last time, the caravan had already been descending for more than 20 seconds, picking up speed as it went. He wasn't caught level and calm. Something was already going wrong before he said a word. What the simulation adds is how wrong. Investigators calculated the airplane's bank angle at around 30 degrees left when that final transmission began, climbing from there. 13 seconds, the simulation shows it rolling through 90 degrees. 3 seconds after that, it crested near 150 degrees of bank in roughly 15 seconds total. For scale, airline passengers rarely feel more than 20 or 30 degrees of bank, even in a tight turn. 150 degrees isn't a turn, it's most of the way to inverted, in an airplane that had leveled off normally less than 2 minutes earlier. Here's the detail that doesn't make any of this easier to process. Before the end, the data shows the airplane beginning to roll back out of that extreme attitude. Whatever was happening in that cockpit, Preziose seems to have been fighting it and gaining ground almost to the very last second. The engine offers no better explanation. It was still producing power on impact. The propeller blades were bent and twisted exactly the way blades bend when they're spinning under load, not the way they fail. Nothing mechanical gave out on Night Ship 282. The last radar return placed Night Ship 282 descending through about 2,300 feet seconds after the transmission that cut off mid-word. Below that altitude, the transponder signal faded out entirely, swallowed, investigators later determined, by whatever violent attitude the aircraft was already in. After that, nothing. No further blip on a radar screen. No further word on the frequency, just an empty patch of scope where a target used to be, and a controller reaching for a phone to make the kind of calls nobody wants to make. Somewhere in the next minute, Night Ship 282 came down in Big Bateau Bay,
Swampy tidal marsh between Mobile and Spanish Fort. 6 minutes. That's the entire length of the flight, start to finish. No witnesses, nobody on the water, nobody on shore saw or heard it happen. What investigators found afterward tells its own quiet story. No fire, no explosion. Wreckage scattered across roughly 600 feet of open water and soft mud, too spread out to reach on foot, so recovery crews needed airboats and a barge just to bring it ashore. The crushing patterns were consistent with a moderate angle of descent and a moderate right-wing down attitude at impact, not level, but not the near-inverted 150-degree roll from moments earlier.
The plane's emergency locator transmitter, built to broadcast automatically the instant of a hard landing, never activated. Paired with the same low clouds that had blinded Preziose, it took nearly 3 hours until 10:42 that night before searchers finally found the wreckage. Thomas Preziose was 54 years old. What killed him is now a matter of physical record. What remains is the harder question: why? According to the National Transportation Board's official finding, the probable cause of the crash of Night Ship 282 was the pilot's spatial disorientation leading to loss of control. Night instrument conditions and uneven cloud layers were listed as contributing factors. Toxicology came back clean: no alcohol, no impairing drugs. Whatever failed that night, it wasn't Thomas Preziose's judgment walking into the cockpit. It was something that happened to him once he was already inside it. Investigators reconstructed the mechanism, not just the outcome. Once Preziose picked out the DC-10, it would have appeared as little more than a single light moving against a black, featureless sky. Tracking that light as it slid across his windscreen and climbed while maneuvering to keep it in view would have been enough on its own to unravel his sense of up and down completely. A documented, usually survivable phenomenon. This one time, it wasn't. And the red marks that opened this video, the NTSB's file actually did say for a while that the Cessna had collided with something in mid-air, one of the only times in the agency's history that language showed up in an official file. The version that closed it years later, 4 separate laboratories, including the FBI, matched 21 of the 34 marked wreckage pieces to ordinary items already on board or nearby: a tow bar, a fire extinguisher, a mail envelope, barge paint. None of it matched anything that shouldn't have been there. The pilot's family did sue over this crash, not over a UFO. Their case argued air traffic control put him too close to the DC-10's wake turbulence. The final investigation checked that theory too, and ruled it out. What actually happened is quieter than a collision, and arguably harder to accept. An experienced 4,000-hour pilot lost the sky for less than a minute in the dark with nothing outside his window to check himself against. Don't forget to hit subscribe because there are more stories coming. Thanks for watching.